Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Relationship Stories. Today, one person is asking us, am I an idiot for not wanting my son to donate a kidney to his deadbeat father? But before we give our judgment, let's hear the story from her side. My extremely narcissistic and abusive ex-husband wants our son to be tested for a donor match because he has cancer in both kidneys and needs a donor kidney now. I have several issues with this and I'm wondering if I'm being a brick because if I don't agree to this, he could die if he doesn't find a donor soon. And I have some points why I don't want to help him. Some of them are: Point 1. My ex wanted me to abort our son because a 5-month scan showed he might have birth defects. When I refused the abortion, he left me. He didn't come back until after our son was born with nothing more than a mild hearing loss. Point 2. Turns out he was cheating during the time he was gone and that he had been having an affair with a woman, his first ex-wife, for almost the entire duration of his marriage to me, at which time she was also married to someone else. When my son was only 2 months old, the ex packed up and left and has been with her ever since. Although he has never married her, he has actually told me our entire 13-year marriage was a mistake, that he wishes he never met me. Point 3. Son is now 16 years old and his father has not seen him since he was 4. By his own choice, he is also way behind in child support, like $30,000, but could easily afford to pay it as he makes a high 6-figure salary. Point 4. Son is a high-functioning autistic and very emotionally vulnerable. He hates his father for abandoning him, especially since his father seems to be quite happily parenting his ex-wife's kids from her second husband. Although considering the duration of their affair, most of our marriage apparently, I suppose those kids could be his. They were much younger than my son. Point 5. I'm almost 100% sure that if I allow this to happen, the ex will simply disappear from our son's life all over again once he finds out he is not a match, or even if he does match and acts as the donor. Because being out of his only child's life for over 10 years is pretty much proof to me that he doesn't give a damn about him. And if he doesn't care about us, why the hell should we care about him? My point 6 is, kidney cancer actually runs very strongly in my ex-husband's family. His father died of it, his grandfather died of it, and 2 of his father's sisters died of it, which means it's entirely possible my son will end up getting it as well. Which would mean if he only had 1 kidney left due to being a donor, he will be in a worse position than his father's currently is. So, am I right to want to protect my child from being used by a father who doesn't care about him? Or am I a brick for being willing to let him die but by not letting his child to be his organ donor? I have not told my son about his request, and if when I do, I have a feeling he won't agree to it at first. But his father could probably manipulate him into it very easily if I allow his father to talk to him. And his father could easily use the court system to force me to let him spend time with our son. My opinion about this issue is, OP, you are not wrong for feeling the way you do. It sounds like your ex-husband has a history of mistreating you and your son, and it is understandable that you do not want to subject your son to further potential emotional trauma by having him donate a kidney to your father who already has abandoned him and shown little regard for his well-being. Additionally, it is concerning that kidney cancer runs in your ex-husband's family, and donating a kidney could potentially put your son at risk for developing the same cancer in the future. Ultimately, the decision of whether or not your son should donate a kidney is up to you and your son. It is important to consider all the factors involved and make a decision that prioritizes your son's well-being. If your son is old enough to make his own decisions, it may be worth to having a conversation with him about the request and allowing him to make the decision for himself. It may also be helpful to speak with a healthcare professional or a counselor who can provide guidance and support during this difficult time. Now we will see what our friends think about this issue. Our friend once said, "Not an idiot. There are a lot of red flags as to why your son is a bad donor candidate. If your ex keeping hounding you, ask the name of his physician. Transplant doctors take bodily autonomy really freaking seriously. They will recognize that your son, for a variety of very good reasons, cannot consent to this surgery. They will tell your ex your son is not a match and that he needs to seek elsewhere. Why your son is not a match will not be revealed. Once your son has been eliminated as a donor candidate, your ex will need to seek elsewhere. His doctor will not enable your ex to continue to hound your son. Our friend too said, not an idiot, and honestly, I doubt any transplant team would let your son to donate. There are a lot of hoops to jump through for a minor to donate, and there are a ton of red flags here. I will say you should still talk to your son about it because I'm worried that if your ex will contact him first and give his side of the story. You don't want him to be able to spin the narrative right away. And I would personally emphasize the fact that it's very unlikely he had been allowed to donate even if he wanted to. Story 2. One person is asking us, will I be an idiot if I didn't let my husband watch the birth? I recently found out I'm pregnant. We are over the moon about it. Only thing is, I really don't want my husband watching the birth. I told him he can be in the room, hold my hand, hear the baby's first cry, but I do not want him front and center starting up my crotch. He is incredibly offended by this. He says this is something he will never have the chance to do it again in this life. It's his kid and he deserves to see the moment he or she is brought into this world, etc. And I understand his point of view, but honestly, I just don't want anybody except the doctors and nurses looking at me in such a vulnerable state, especially my husband. I mean, he still has to find me attractive after this. And I'm just afraid that he won't after seeing me rip from my V to my A. And a lot of women defecate on the delivery table. It's a pride thing and it's also a shyness thing. I want this moment to be beautiful and joyous, and I just don't think it will be that way if he is staring into my vagina while it's happening. What's wrong with letting him be in the delivery room but not watch the birth? Am I an idiot for doing this, guys? My opinion about this issue is, OP, no, you are not wrong for wanting your husband to not watch the birth if it makes you uncomfortable. Childbirth is a personal experience and it's important that you feel comfortable and safe during the process. Your husband should respect your boundaries and be supportive of you in whatever way you need him to be. It's important to have an open and honest conversation with him about your feelings and concerns and try to come to a compromise that works for both of you. Perhaps he can be present but focus on supporting you emotionally rather than watching the birth. Ultimately, this is your decision and your husband should be respectful of your wishes. Now, we will see what our friends think about this issue. Our friend once said, not an idiot. You get to choose, but it's understandable he is keen. It sounds like you have some time to discuss this. Have you experienced that your discomfort is partly over the fact that this is not going to be a wonderful moment and you want to keep tearing and slimming and bleeding and shipping to yourself? After all, you don't get to see your child emerge. Your husband, can you join you at the head of the bed? Perspective, so you both get to see your baby at the same time. Our friend too said, not an idiot. I was also going to suggest he be at the head of the bed with you. The way you both get pretty much the same view of the big event and get to experience the first look and first cry and all that together without him being face to face with your V and all the less than pleasant stuff going on down there. But I will also say to play devil's advocate that I don't think many, if any husbands see their wife as less hot after watching the birth. All in all, it's up to you guys to figure out what works for you. Most importantly, I wish you a healthy pregnancy and a happy healthy baby. Story 3. In this story, one person is asking us, am I an idiot for refusing to share a bed with a coworker at a mandatory conference? I just graduated from college and I have been working as a receptionist. I have decided it's time to get serious and find a career. I interviewed at 10 places and few offers before accepting a new job. I was so excited to not work weekends anymore, getting off at 5 every day, earning a little more money to pay off my student loans and having some pocket change for concerts. After about a week of training at my new job, I am told that we are having a mandatory conference in which we will have to stay the night at a hotel in the same city that I live in. Their reasoning for making everyone stay even though some of other officers were within 10 miles of the hotel was that since some people were coming from out of town and they wanted it to be fair for everyone. I thought it was stupid they were making us stay in hotel because my house was less than 5 miles from the hotel and I could easily just go to all the training and the dinner while still being able to go home. I decided to get over it and try to get over my fears and anxiety about forced interaction with people who are not like me. I am a bit of free spirit. Upon my arrival to the conference, I overheard one of the girls saying that we are sleeping 4 to your room and 2 to your bed. I started to panic and ran to the bathroom with tears in my eyes, trying to stop myself from having a full-blown panic attack. I texted in my group message with the girls in my specific office if they knew we would be co-sleeping next to someone that they blew it off like it was normal. I make it through my first senior class. I have a history of getting panic attacks so severe that I am left for hours until I calm myself down. As soon as it was over, I pulled my supervisor aside and asked her if she knew that we would be sleeping 2 to a bed. She said yes, and I told her had I known that were the sleeping situation, I would have never agreed to it, and I would let her know way further ahead of time that I am not okay with sleeping in the same bed as someone. She tells me I'm overreacting and that it's mandatory and that I will be the only girl not staying and it's gonna make me look like I'm not a team player. She told me that I would have to accept a write-up as a punishment for not staying. I told her that was fine. I would accept whatever punishment. I felt very disrespected and like I was being pushed to do something I was very uncomfortable with. She just stormed off. After the next class was over, my supervisor came to me to tell me that they were not going to write me up, but they were officially uninviting me from the company dinner and the bonding exercise that were scheduled after. I feel like this will stop my chances of being promoted within company, and I feel like all other girls are going to think I'm an outcast freak, but because I threw a fit about sharing a bed instead of just following suit. My opinion about this issue is, OP, you are not an idiot. It's completely reasonable for you to feel uncomfortable sharing a bed with a coworker, especially if you have a history of panic attacks. Your supervisor should have been more understanding and accommodating you for your concerns. It's not fair for them to punish you for not wanting to share a bed. And it is also not fair for them to uninvite you from the company dinner and bonding exercises. It is important for employers to prioritize their employees' comfort and well-being. And it seems like your employer is not doing that in this situation. It's also important to remember that it's your right to set boundaries and prioritize your own mental and emotional health. Our friend once said, "Not an idiot. Agree with what everyone said. Sleeping in a bed with someone else without your consent is beyond inappropriate. Just because this office does it does not make it right. Keep looking for a job. I have never heard of this happening and have been making business trips and doing team bonding stuff for years." Our friend too said, "Not an idiot. What the freak?" This almost reads like whoever's idea this was a friend in a certain hotel's management, but I disagree. There is no reason for everyone local to be snuck or needling to shack up like this. It's also wrong for them to be making a hostile work environment and threaten you to the write-ups. I suggest polishing up the resume again and start looking while you are still employed here so you can jump this dumpster fire as soon as possible.